Thank you all so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's proclamation news and Gavins. With the prodigious, the professor, proclamation news and Gavins. It's 20th of November 2019. Thank you all so much. Got a lot to get through today. I want to talk about inequalities throughout the sociological society that we live in. I've done some qualitative investigation, orally, verbally, taking down notes. Who does their washing throughout the household? We looked at other professors doing their research from about 1960 onwards up until today. Looking at all, sociological scientists, they do they do they write down statistics. They get a group of people, group of households, maybe 20 people. Ask the audience, who does the chores in the household? Many men might cook. Many men might cook in their household, whereas women would do dirty work like dishes and washing up. Strange, isn't it? How the tradition runs on in a lot of households. A man's perspective to using a washing machine. I don't know how to use it. The easy way out. They become bone idle, become inappropriate, incompetent, incomprehensible. Why don't you give your missus a day off? Give your wife a day off, or your girlfriend. Do the washing yourself. Who's doing my dishes? Who's doing my ironing? I live by myself. I've no support. This time of year, I'm not trying to say I'm better than everyone else, but I'm just saying, when you're in a relationship, give your missus a break. Maybe your wife's. The majority of women actually just want to do the work. This position. Gone like it for years, decades. We're talking about inequality. We're talking about equalities. We're talking about reciprocation in a household. Why doesn't your husband go? Actually, I'm gonna do the washing today. I'm gonna do the washing. I'm gonna hang the clothes out and I'm gonna iron the clothes and give you a day off. Give your wife a week off. Why don't you give your wife a month off? In fact, it's not hard. It's not hard to do all the washing in the household. A lot of women spend, they can do like 3 washes in a day, 20 wash loads in a week. Ironing your work clothes, ironing your kids' sports clothes, making sure they're ready for school. Why don't you, the father, you, the husband, you, the boyfriend, say, actually, I'm going to take charge. I'm going to take charge today. Anyway, thank you all for listening, ladies and gents. I'm a capital P in proclamation. I'm a capital P in persuasion. I'm a capital P in persuasive. I'm a capital P in punctuation. I'm a capital P in provocative. I'm a capital P in propaganda. I'm a capital P in purity. I'm a capital P in progressive. I'm a capital P in progression. I'm a capital P in philanthropist. I'm a capital P in populism. I'm also, ladies and gents, I don't know if you know, I'm on the radio channel as well now. I'm aboard my Rising. I've had a great chat. Me and Scotty Gavins. Scotty Gavins from Bristol. We've been having some great conversation. We have a bit of fun on a weekend. Obviously, I wasn't saying no good doers. It ain't nice, is it? Because people that drink and take alcoholism in moderation, I don't think it's good at all. But in moderation, if you want to participate with the show and you treat us with qualities, don't come on to discriminate. You're more than welcome to come along. I'll do a bit of karaoke on a Friday. I like to sing a bit of gospel music just to let people know I'm very expert, and that's the way I am. I can have a good time. I don't drink. I live purely off the aesthetics of life. It's about having fun. Life is about living. Living to a certain degree. I like to say degree. Living your life to a certain degree without touching any evil substance. But like again, I'm not tarnishing you guys with a brush if you can drink. I'm not allowed to drink, and it's why I've been brought up, I suppose. It's why I've been nourished away from alcohol. I've brought up away from alcoholism and narcotics. Absolutely. Anyway, we've got a lot to get through today. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen with the tier system. Tier systems are coming into play in 2nd December, as we know. I'm going to give you what's going to happen with Brexit from what I can gather, the WTO agreement. We're going to look through the HuffPost politics. We've got a lot, a lot to get through. I'm not going to bother talking about the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. They're talking about it could roll out to start at the beginning of next month. So here it goes. We're going straight into HuffPost, and then I'm going to give you the WTO Brexit agreement. Hopefully it's going to be out now. I'm having break in between because there's a lot to get through with the WTO agreement. What can you do with your distributions? What's it going to affect us with our food produce? Your clothes, buying new clothes for your children at a birthday, Christmas. Proclamation news and gatherings. We are part of the aristocracy social elite. Bona fide conservatism. I am right wing, but like I say, if you're left wing, if you're centre, if you're a bit of a liberal, don't worry, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to tarnish you with a brush. It doesn't matter. We've all got our own opinions, our own formation of politics. Let's see what's happened to Prithvi Patel. I do like Prithvi Patel, and they're making an example of Prithvi Patel, but it didn't make an example of Tony Blair being Islamophobic towards her. So the media can not be your best friend when you're very expert in your job. Propaganda can totally ignore what's happening and go against you as a person. Tories MPs ignore PM's advice to form a square around Prithvi Patel. Less than a quarter of the Tory MPs on Twitter and just 5 cabinet ministers posted in support of the Britster Lib Dems analysts. Less than a Less than a quarter of Tory MPs defended Patel with supported tweets after she was found guilty of bullying officials despite Boris Johnson urging them from a square around her. It's just, I guess saying, well, I don't agree with her if she's bullying people at work, but what I don't agree with, is horses for courses. I mean, they're going to make an example of her in the propaganda. Why are they making an example of Tony Blair? Why is his name not mentioned for the Islamophobia hatred towards Twitter? Because that could be an ongoing mental health problem for Twitter culture. And she's going into work angry, upset, and she's taking out on people that ain't nothing to do. That's what happens in society. It's like your missus keep picking on you before you go to work. You go to work, you take out on your work colleagues. She's been picked on in Parliament by Tony Blair time and time again. Same thing could, I was just so she'll never put if you're a Labour supporter, someone dating Sadiq Khan. Say Boris Johnson was picking on Sadiq Khan for his culture. He's going to go into work and take out his colleagues. So, we're on the same playing field. I'm not just being biased here. I'm trying to say it from a light that we can all understand. Because without the left and right of politics, there is no bird, I'm trying to come away from discriminate Labour supporters because there are some good ones. I do like Sadiq Khan, that is for sure. If anyone should be leading Labour, it should be Sadiq Khan, if I'm honest. I can't think of anyone that could step in his shoes. He's the Foreign Secretary, as you know, the Mayor of London even. He's the Mayor of London. Why shouldn't he be in front of Sir Keir Starmer? Sir Keir Starmer hasn't got much to his resume, apart from letting Jimmy Savile off the allegation. So why not Sadiq Khan? Sadiq Khan would be better for the frame for the leader, I believe. The Prime Minister texted Tories last week telling them to form a square around the Britster, with number 10 Press Secretary Algra Stratton confirming that Johnson wants MP to support the Home Secretary on what was a testing day for her on Friday. Stratton briefed reporters after Johnson overruled independent advice that Patel had breached the ministerial code of shouting and swearing at Home Office staff, sparking the resignation of the PM's advisor on ministerial interests, Sir Alex Allen. The senior Tory MP Ian Duncan Smith and Patel's parliamentary aides at the Home Office have been also reportedly attempting that a coordinate supported tweet for Patel, which was on Friday. But by then, on Friday evening, fewer than 25% of the Tory MPs on the social media of Twitter posted in support of Mr. Patel. Liberal Democrat analysts has suggested. On, by the Sunday afternoon, just 5 of the 20 other cabinet ministers left on Twitter accounts had posted in support of Patel. Got Harry Cole here. PM, what's up? Order to Tory MPs. Time to form a square around the Quitster. Dead right, folks. Time to form a square around the Quitster. This is the Sun, let's put this. The Sun, News and Politics. They were Liz Truss, Tracy Kofi, Amanda Milling and Ben Wallace. Jacob Rees-Mogg had attended Cabinet as Commons leader. Also managed to tweet in support of Patel, as well as the anti-bullying week. The other ministers, including Johnson and Mr. Sunak, had defended Priti Patel in a broadcast of the interviews. But however, Lib Dem Home Affairs spokesperson Alistair Carmichael, he spoke and said the lack of backing of Priti Patel online, it showed that Johnson has lost the trust of the backbenchers. It comes to me as a bit inconspicuous what's going on here. You know, you've got to see from my perspective. If she's getting bullied, she can take issues to work. And it happens. It's part of a mental health mechanism, isn't it? You know, we can't write these politicians off too much. They're doing their job, and you know what they're up against. They've got bills. They've got husbands to be, you know, seeking to own. They've got a lot of things, a lot of issues that could have made her proact into the way she has. You know. Then on Sunday, Times reported that Johnson had held discussions about replacing Patel as Home Secretary in a New Year cabinet reshuffle. That'd be not fair. That wouldn't be fair. And which she can get her justice, can't she? If that happens, she can make a statement to say, "I'm not happy with the choice of her being bullied at work." Carmichael has then told HuffPost UK that it is bad for the Prime Minister, not because he has lost an advisor and seemingly subverted the ministerial code. He then called on the colleagues to support Patel, while the vast majority of colleagues ignored him. How Johnson lost the trust from his backbenchers are now fed up being sent over the top by General. How it sounds as a retreat when they are out in no man's land. However, Prime Minister allegedly loathes bullying. In this week, we've also seen the anti-bullying version of Barnard Castle at FOM number 10. Here we go with the support for Patel in her party is dire. The research showed a number of MPs supporting her as minute. Very few MPs across all the parties spend so much time going around schools on anti-bullying campaigns. However, they haven't really done it with a straight face if they throw their support behind the Home Secretary. I can see where, you know, they've got to make examples or think people at work. It's an etiquette job all round, but really, you know, why hasn't Tony Blair been dealt with beforehand? Do you agree with Priti Patel's plan to stop migrants crossing the channel? I think, yes, it's a good idea to stop. You know, we need to stop population growth. I mean, she's coming from an Islamophobia state herself, so you know it's not a fascist statement. It's more of a controlling our population. You know, realistically, I know some of you guys. You could be from India, you could be from Iran, Iraq, you could be from the EU or whatever. As it stands in your country, is it that easy to get a visa unless you come there to work? We don't want people not coming in your country if they've got nothing to bring to the table of success. If you're just going to come here and live off welfare and you're not going to do anything really, You've got nothing there. If you're good, maybe you want to come in and be a radio presenter. You want to get into know a bit of the English law and you want to talk about it. Everyone needs support, especially if you can speak two languages. You should be allowed to go anywhere. If you speak, very, very, prominently. If you can speak two languages prominently, adequately, then why not? Why should you be able to enter? Because you can help others speak your language in their country and help others speak our language. Because some of these foreign descent are probably a lot better English than some of our English talkers and tutors, for that matter. Really got that that wider aspect of all kinds of well, it depends what your study is. Maybe you want to become a doctor, a midwife. Imagine that, and you speak two languages. You're well above the average candidate. Thank you for listening, ladies and gents. That was pretty tell. We've got quite a few bit more to get through. I'm just going to have a little break because we're going to talk about the WTO, and that's going to take us a good half hour. So I'm going to have a little break. We're going to move on. I just wanted to get you guys listening, focused on the subject. I'm so overwhelmed that you're all here supporting the show time and time again. 2 seconds, agents.
Expressed full confidence in the Home Secretary Priti Patel, despite a report into claims of bullying, which found that she broke the rules on ministerial behaviour. It's led to the resignation of the man who wrote the report, Sir Alex Allen. His inquiry looked into allegations about Priti Patel's conduct as a minister in 3 different government departments. A former top official in the Home Office told the BBC that she'd been urged not to shout and swear at staff a month after becoming Home Secretary. This afternoon, Ms Patel said that she was sorry if her behaviour had upset people. Deputy Political Editor Vicky Young reports.
He's standing by her. Boris Johnson's taken months to give his verdict on the Home Secretary's behaviour, which an independent report described as bullying. Priti Patel shouted and swore at staff. The Prime Minister's judged that she didn't break ministerial rules. I asked her what she thought about the criticisms in the report. Are you a bully?
Well, I'm here to give an unreserved apology today, and I am sorry if I have upset people in any way whatsoever. That was completely unintentional. And Vicky, I'll be very candid. The work that I do here in this department and across government is deeply challenging. So if I have upset people, that has been completely unintentional. That was not my intention.
The Prime Minister's advisor on ministerial standards has found that the Home Secretary has not consistently met the high standards required by the Ministerial Code of treating her civil servants with consideration and respect. Her approach on occasions has amounted to behaviour that can be described as bullying in terms of the impact felt by individuals. And to that extent, her behaviour has been in breach of the Ministerial Code, even if unintentionally. Despite these findings from Sir Alex Allen, the Prime Minister has the final say and has disagreed. Sir Alex has resigned. In overruling his independent advisor, the Prime Minister's made a huge political decision. Downing Street points to what they call mitigating circumstances, the fact that no one mentioned the Home Secretary's behaviour to her at the time and that she's apologised. Ms Patel's friends think she's been the victim of snobbery and sexism. But some of this has been contradicted by Sir Philip Ruttenham. He resigned in February as the most senior civil servant at the Home Office.
Sir Philip, how much confidence do you have in the inquiry?
In a statement today, he said he wasn't asked to give evidence and says he did repeatedly advise Ms Patel that she needed to treat staff with respect. His former department has also been criticised for being inflexible and unsupportive. The Home Secretary says the culture has now changed.
At the time, of course, it says this in the report that, issues were not pointed out to me. We were not being supported, obviously, in our work. But this is a challenging department.
I mean, people listening to it will think that you're making excuses, and that actually there is no excuse for somebody who's in a senior position to treat others badly.
Vicky, there are no excuses. I'm absolutely given an unreserved, fulsome apology today. I cannot be any clearer about that whatsoever.
But Labour say Priti Patel should resign or be sacked.
The Prime Minister has said that he loathes bullying, and yet today he has comprehensively failed a test of his leadership when he's had a report on his desk precisely on that issue. Sir Alex Allen couldn't have been clearer that the Home Secretary has not consistently met the high standards of the ministerial code.
Hanging on to Priti Patel will be a popular decision with Conservative Party members, but it will bring Mr Johnson more political pain. Rita, it really has been an extraordinary day. The independent advisor on ministerial standards has found that the Home Secretary's behaviour amounted to bullying. Not only that, the Prime Minister has rejected that judgment, also highly unusual. Now, the Prime Minister really has gone out on a limb to keep Priti Patel in her job. It has thrilled her many supporters, but there are lots of Conservative MPs who are dismayed. They worry about the signal that this sends out about bullying. Today, Boris Johnson's statement said that he felt that this matter was closed. I'm not sure it is.
There you go, ladies and gents. That was that was the rest of the quality of evidence. She's admitted it. Priti Patel has admitted the sexism, but if they can make an example of her, like I said, why they're not making an example of Tony Blair being Islamophobic towards her? So you've got to weigh up the pros and cons. Should she be fired? Not before Tony Blair, because it's been going on for a long time. Tony Blair's been pushing her for a long time. This could be part of the mental health attitude that she's bringing to her own party, into the own office. She's getting distressed. That's what happens, isn't it? It's like a downward spiral after getting bullied yourself. You go and take it out on someone else, take it out on the next person. It's like you talk about fascism, you talk about xenophobia. If you can't get rid of history, you can't get rid of racism. It's simple as that. You can try and preach it the best you can to youth today, but it's never going to be an end of it ever, because everyone's going to play the race card all the time. It doesn't matter what if I was working in a African country, for instance, if I get feel like getting picked on, I'm gonna be going more to being fascist towards me. Same vice versa. It's just the way it is, and they're going to blame history. So how do you tackle it? I've got loads of African Nigerians that are nice to me, but I'm just saying, for instance, if I was in their culture, I'm gonna play the card. I'm getting bullied because I'm white. But wish I'm mixed race anyway. But still, I'm going to be playing that bully card. See where I'm coming from? So that's the quality of evidence about that. I should imagine, especially if you lot agree to what I'm saying. See where I'm coming from. Anyway, as we're moving on, we're looking at what we're looking at for Christmas. What's going to happen at Christmas? Everyone's contemplating, anticipating what we're going to be doing for Christmas. I'm going to give you my verdict before we even look any further. If we go into a tier system and hospitality opens back up, I think hospitality is our final risk. Hospitality opening it back up now is final risk for going another lockdown after Christmas. They're saying this is going to be the final tier, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to be the final tier. I think we're going to go into another one, especially if we open up hospitality. More COVID things are going to start picking up again, like it did last time when they opened up hospitality. I've heard by hearsay that many more people are catching COVID. I lost my boxing manager only yesterday. My ex-boxing manager, he died for a heart attack. So I want to do a minute's silence because it was a shock to me, and it wasn't a bad. It wasn't a bad blow. It was big man in boxing. Although he didn't give me the best fights, but he taught me something. I learned. I got a few takeaway points from boxing. I learned to fight my demons. I learned to fight my long life depression of the biggest kicking of my whole life I have ever had when I was 18. So I come away with learning something as a professional boxer. I didn't have a great record, but I fought some tough guys, but a lot heavier. Some really tough fighters. it's quite abysmal behaviour as an etiquette level. I was getting put in the ring with light heavyweight boxers when I was middleweight. I fought super middle quite often, but I was borderline middleweight at that quality of boxing. I was at the bottom half as a professional boxer, working my way up. I was fighting heavier blows all the time and time again. I could have got one blow to the head and could have killed me. I've got a fractured skull, and I've had two fractured skulls since. One before I had the kick in, it come back my other X-ray. I had an X-ray before my kick in. I had a cracked skull then, and afterwards, my skull was even cracked even more. So, it's very very lucky that I'm still here. But I want to have a minute of silence. Greg Steen, is a manager, my boxing manager. He's also a boxing manager to um, Dennis Andres. Dennis Andres was a light heavyweight, black light heavyweight from, I think he's from Island. He's from Island. He won a world WBC. Greg Steen was his manager. So we're gonna, Greg was a good guy. Done some good things. A lot of people knew him in the boxing forte. So we're gonna have a minute silence because my friend rang him a couple of days ago. See if Greg was there. His wife said no, he's just passed away. That's a big shock. I spoke to Greg about a month ago to see how he's getting on. Because obviously with the lockdown, thought to see how he's coping. Because I knew he had a cancer scare a little while back. Now we've lost him. The absolute devastation. So we're gonna have a minute silence from now. Pay our condolences. That's it, ladies and gents. Thank you for you being patient with me there. Well, I mean, when I do these minute silences, I think, my condolences going out to him, but he's not going to get my condolences because he's not here. He's not going to hear me. But his poor wife, everyone he's left behind, all his boxers that he had signed up to Greg Steen, and they need him. They need him to get, to put beans and toast on the table for their loved ones. His wife needs him. His wife needs him to be married. They're married. That's what happens. You get married, and you expect the everlasting love. We're all getting older. And soon our time's going to be up. You don't realise, you don't know when your time's going to be up. You can die of anything tragically, crossing the road, taking a dog for a walk. We're all trying to get this better aspiration life, live the wealthiest but most healthiest lifestyle. Trying to get the best job description that he possibly can to become the richest man. Man, all that money you can't take with you, can you? You can't take all that money with you. I was trying to be world champion myself. Where's all the money go? Where's everything go after I pass away? You can't take it with you. You just got to take every day as it comes and keep your loved ones close by. You just got to remember, friends are not always your friends. Taking punches for your friends. You got friends. I find a friend is more of a problem than it is a friend. If you got a friend, you got to go and help them, but they can help you as much as you help them. There's a lot of things you got to think about. You got your mum, your dad need you, aunties, uncles. Your wife needs you, your kids need you, but you're too busy helping your friends and your friends' friends. You need to nip it in the bud. Do you really want to be going work for the rest of your life, building for because you're working for multi-millionaires. You're not getting any richer. You're staying middle class. You're nothing special. Is it really? Say to yourself, is it worth it for the sake of your loved ones? especially with COVID-19 going on, it makes you have a second thought of your aspirations. So I changed my job description. So better my horizon. That's what it makes you feel. You could imagine if I'm doing office work, which I'm doing now. I'm working from home, and if you go into a future lockdown, I can still keep my mind busy. I still can keep my mind safe. When I worked on a building site, I helped. I helped the park and ride and culture. There's a lot of things I've done in building. Was at the culture to sixth form. Was undermining the ground floor apartment to the music studio. Literally undermined. It's full of dirt. We broke. We had to get diamond drillers to take the wall out, and it's full of mud underneath in the ground floor, at the first floor and the ground floor, full of mud. It's probably about 100 meters square, I reckon. Just a hazard of a guess. We had to dig all that earth out and then prop the first floor. One of them acros fell on my head with a steel girder, landed on my head, split my heart out, smacked me in the skull. That was prior to after having my head injury. I had a massive split all down my head. I'd get rushed to the A&E in Colchester Hospital. You don't know when your time. I'm just saying that's a near miss. That's very, very near miss. That's despite getting jumped with 15 blokes outside a nightclub with a hammer and baseball beforehand. It's another near miss on my head. There's only so many near misses you can take before your time's up. Me doing the most dangerous sport in the world, apart from Formula One and motorbike racing, I believe. Taking big risks in life, taking massive, massive risks in your life every day. You're taking a big risk driving up and down the motorway nowadays, isn't it? When you got people driving under the influence of alcoholism and narcotics. Only takes one stupid idiot on the road to tip your car over with your family in. So think safety, think first. And thank you, ladies and gents, for giving me that time of day. We're going to move on to the strengthening the tier system. COVID-19. Here we go. COVID-19 is what you're looking at. This is what you're looking for Christmas. COVID-19 strengthened tier system for England after lockdown. This has become a type of three-tiered system of local restrictions will come into force from England when the lockdown ends from the 2nd of December. It's coming from Downing Street. As Boris Johnson has expected, which was set out in his plan. Some of the details of how families had seen different households at Christmas to MPs on Monday. More areas have been set to be placed from the higher tiers, which have kept the virus within control, as number 10 has said. Some tiers would have been strengthened, which will safeguard lockdown progress. A few local measures which have been the same from those as the previous three-tier system, which has implied in England until its current lockdown had begun. From the government scientific advisory group, which our emergency sage is expected to publish a research from Monday saying its previous restrictions haven't been strong enough. Our government had identified the tiers, which see each area which has been placed into on Thursday. Our Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, he spoke to BBC's Andrew Marr from 10 p.m. closing time for the pubs and restaurants was one of the things it's looking to refine. I don't know why would you open up hospitality, risking to go back in another tier system? It really don't make sense. I'm sure pub landlords will understand if we go for another we're going to be another 2 months lockdown. But if we come, just for Christmas, open up and then they go into another lockdown after Christmas, you're putting us under more stress. You might as well just keep the hospitality shut until March when it starts warming up again. So it's been understood our rules will be changed, will be relaxed to give people the extra hour to finish their food and drinks after last orders at 10 p.m. Kate Nicole's chief executive of the UK Hospitality said this would help businesses, but would be meaningless unless people are allowed to socialise with friends and family, particularly over the crucial Christmas period. English tier system at a glance. Pre-lockdown, there were three tiers of restrictions: medium, high, and very high. Medium tier one. It's rule of six if meeting indoors and outdoors pubs and restaurants shut at 10 p.m. Crazy, isn't it? Higher tier two. No household mixing indoors. Rule of six applies outdoors. Pubs and restaurants shut at 10 p.m. So they still got pubs open. It's ridiculous. Very high tier three. No household mixing in some outdoor spaces. Pubs and bars serving meals are closed. Our newspaper report suggests the rules could be temporarily relaxed. UK-wide over Christmas, several families could be allowed to join in one bubble and mix between the 22nd and 28th, according to the Daily Telegraph. Ministers have made it clear the festive season will be different to normal, with some restrictions expected to remain in place. Our BBC political correspondent Nick Eardley has said conversations about Christmas between the different nations of the UK were ongoing. Our sources have believed a deal is probable later next week, but it is likely to be signed off before the Prime Minister's announcement on Monday. Our four nations, which have different COVID rules, but ministers which are hoping to agree a joint approach from a festive season. Our government ministers and advisers, which have been hinting about the tougher tiers over the past week. Before lockdown, there was some evidence that tiers 2 and 3 had an impact, but not tier 1. Crucially, both the top two tiers involve in banning mixed inside homes. So one option being discussed behind the scenes is introducing a ban across all the tiers until winter is over. Absolutely. The exception will of course be Christmas. Well, we don't want the Christmas shutdown, but you know what I mean, banning mixing altogether up until Christmas should be the one. That is a move that divides opinion, but the government sees it as a necessity, believing a significant number of people will ignore any attempt to ban gatherings over the festive period. It is also a recognition and the public needs a break from the long hard slog of pandemic. Infection rates will of course rise, but that will be offset to some extent by a wider boost to well-being. Professor Callum Semple from the University of Liverpool said he hoped it would be possible to relax rules over Christmas if the new tiered system worked but warned there will be a price, including tighter restrictions in the future. However, Professor Semple, who is a member of the SAGE, told the Sky News, Sophie Ridge, there was a lot to be optimistic about. He said he expected mass vaccination of the general population to happen towards next summer, which would be broad immunity and allow a return back to normal. I mean, it's supposed to come out in November. It's supposed to come out in November this year. I thought the vaccines in this country right now, we'll get it at the end of this month. What's happened? You can look at the CDC. The CDC is a very good thing to look at. The CDC seem to think it's a bit conspiracy theory, but where they find their again, qualitative evidence, or is it quantitative evidence? Because at the minute, all we're getting about COVID is it qualitative evidence? Do you know how many people have got COVID? Are the numbers true? Because I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's qualitative evidence. Publication dates differ by nation. Most recent data for all nations to 17 November source I mean, how can they get qualitative evidence from an NHS? Let's just think there. I'm trying to get my evidence from my X-ray from 2000. I've got the kick in. I need them. I need them for professional reasons. It's not as easy that to get just to get your records, is it? Just one person wants to get the records from 2000. I haven't heard nothing back yet. What's going on? But yet they can put X amount of people that have been convicted of COVID out of 66.6 million people in the UK. Statistically, that doesn't make sense because all they got to do is type in my name, my NHS number, search through from 2000 to possibly 2002, and find all the medical records, X-rays, head injury. But yet they can find every single COVID patient throughout the UK. Doesn't add up, does it? Doesn't add up. MPs are expected to vote on their new tier system in the days before it comes into force. Many Conservative MPs are opposed to stricter measures, with 70 signing a letter coordinated by the recent formed COVID Recovery Group, CRG, saying they cannot support a tiered approach unless they see evidence measures will save more lives than they cost. Earlier this month, 32 Conservatives rebelled by voting against a common lockdown, and 17 more, including former Prime Minister Theresa May, abstained. In a letter to Prime Minister on Saturday, the CRG, led by former Chief Whip Mark Harper and the Brexit Minister Steve Baker, warned against inflicting huge health and economic costs. This letter said we cannot live under such a series of damaging lockdowns and apparently arbitrary restrictions and accept our constitutes to be grateful for being let out to enjoy the festive season. Only strict restrictions imposed on them because afterwards the cause of their health problems and destroy their livelihood. Which has been asked whether he would he would have published a cost benefit analysis of future measures, as is so called by the CRG. The Chancellor told Sky News, "It's very hard to be precise on the economic impact of individual restrictions." I'm going to give you what I wanted to give you: Brexit on a dish. This is what we're all supporting: Brexit on a dish. It's what we want to know. We want to know what the WTO stands for. We want to know, we're going Brexit. We want the WTO to be on our side. We're not too worried about the EU, but you guys want to know what you vote for. Do you know what? 52% voted Brexit. 48% voted leave. So let's have a look. Let's have a look. Update you guys. So you know what you talk about. I mean, I've read all their policies time and time again. They're all about 50 pages long each. Did I get any takeaway notes from reading them? Probably not, but in my head, I know what they mean. I know enough. We want WTO because it's good doing business, isn't it, with China? We need China. We need all the Asia, all Asia, East Asia. We need all Asia, all the East. Not Europe. Well, it's not a big major loss if we lose Europe. That's what I'm saying. We can live. Sorry if you can hear me slap my gums. But here we go. Here we go, Joe. Giving the people what they want. What would trading on WTO terms mean for the UK? We trade on WTO terms. You think where our grain comes from? India, all the Asian countries. What would trading on the WTO mean for the UK? Here we go. Our leading Brexiteer, Jacob Rees-Mogg, has often lured the possibility of falling back on the WTO in the event of a no-deal Brexit. Speaking to Express, Mr. Rees-Mogg said that in the event of a no deal, I think we shouldn't be afraid of a free trade deal on the base. of the World Trade Organization. That is opened up trade with lots of other countries. There are opportunities to take it further, and it would allow us to get on with the rest of the world sooner because it wouldn't have an implementation period. The aim is the aim of this report is to explain, in the simplest possible terms, what is the WTO and to address some of the misconceptions about what falling back on the WTO actually means in the event of a no-deal Brexit. By no deal, we have two situations in mind. The withdrawal agreement is not approved by Westminster Parliament or the European Parliament. The withdrawal agreement is successfully concluded and a transition period is entered into which expires on the 31st December 2020. However, at the end of the transition period and any extension, no free trade agreement is concluded between the EU and the UK. The report is written by experts in the field of WTO law, but who want to explain the WTO rules in terms accessible of non-experts. A shorter version of this report is also available. Okay, thanks. Here we go. This report is structured around a series of questions. Each chapter takes one specific issue and tries to answer common questions arising around that question. Here we go. WTO. We'll look at the origins. World Trading Organization (WTO) is a forum where 164 governments negotiate trade liberalization rules and solve trade disputes between them. The origins of the WTO lie in what is called the General Agreement on Tariffs Trade (GATT) of 1947. The creation of the GATT was a result of the desires after the Second World War to ensure global peace and security. It was negotiated by 23 nations and 8: Australia, Belgium, Canada, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and the United States agreed to apply the agreement provisionally immediately after it was signed. The purpose of the original GATT was to reduce tariffs, i.e. custom duties, levied on goods when they cross a border into another state, and ensure that if countries did restrict trade, they did so for genuine reasons, such as because the products are truly dangerous. It also aimed at removing non-tariff barriers such as import quotas and subsidies. However, a GATT was an international agreement, not an international organisation. From 1947 to 1994, 8 rounds of negotiations took place, during which the GATT was gradually transformed into a de facto organisation. At the Uruguay round negotiations 1986 to 94, the agreement establishing the World Trade Organization, which signed in Marrakesh in 1994, and the WTO was established. The agreement, which was reached in 1994. 1994 was a watershed moment for the WTO. Not only did the states agree set up an organisation, but they also extended the areas covered the WTO agreements to include not just trade in goods, but also services and intellectual property. The states set out principles of liberalisation of trade, prescribed special treatment for developing countries, and called for transparency in trade policies. These and other obligations are set out in some 30,000 pages of text. About 500 pages are the agreements, and the rest is commitments of liberalising trade that countries have been individually under agreement, commonly referred to as WTO agreements, to establish the general rules applicable to all the WTO member states. The WTO has agreements covering goods, the GATT services, the GATS, General Agreement of Trade and Services, and Intellectual Property. The TRIPS, trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. The WTO also has a system for monitoring activities of the states through regular committees and the Trade Policy Review Mechanism, and for the settlement of disputes. In a doctrine to to the general rules, WTO members make individual commitments. Such are set out in documents commonly referred to as schedules of concessions. These schedules are a list of specific promises on tariffs. For example, a state might not commit to apply a fixed tariff to certain agriculture products. This then makes it difficult for the state from imposing a higher support tariff and indicated in its schedule. The schedules also cover other commitments on, for example, how much access it would give to its market to, say, a foreign bank set up an entity. So, what would the trading for the WTO terms mean for the UK? It should be noted that all countries are members of WTO. Non-members are typically smaller countries, but are some with which the UK had significant trade with, including Azerbaijan, 800 million trade in 2016, in Serbia, 400 million. The EU has agreements with both countries, though, which cover the same areas as the WTO agreements would, showing how the WTO provides a basic structure of trade, which would have to be reactive in bilateral agreements if the WTO does not exist. Let's go and look at the structure of the WTO now. The WTO is a number-driven organisation. The main decision-making bodies comprise all members and decisions are made by consensus. Unlike the EU, the WTO does not have institutions such as the European Commission composed of officials who act independently of the member states, except for the dispute resolution. In the jargon, the WTO is an intergovernmental organisation. Decisions are made exclusively by the governments of the WTO member states. The role of the WTO created. The people who actually work for WTO itself is limited, providing technical and professional support to the governments. The Secretariat does not have decision-making powers and, unlike European Commissions, cannot bring action against states who do not comply with WTO rules. The highest authority in WTO is the Ministerial Conference, which, like most of all WTO bodies, is composed of representatives of all the WTO members. The Ministerial Conference enjoys very broad powers during its meetings, which have which happen at least every 2 years. Decisions on all aspects of the WTO system may be taken. That body that oversees that data work of the WTO is the General Council, which is also composed of representatives of all member governments. If reports are Ministerial Conference, the work of the General Council is supported by three separate councils: the Council of Trade in Goods, the Council of Trade in Services, and the Council for Trade-related aspects of intellectual property. Like the Ministerial Like the Ministerial Conference and the General Council, these three bodies are also composed of representatives of all member governments. Goods and Services Councils also important committees on key issues such as agriculture, sanitary, and phytosanitary matters, the SPS. Technical barriers to trade, TBT, far price and anti-dumping, state aid, subsidised, rules negotiation, domestic regulation of services. This is where the real work is done on a wide range of policies and actions that directly affect trade. Although the EU is an independent member of the WTO, it's an additional 28 member states, i.e. together constitute 29 independent members. It is a customary of the EU represent its member states in WTO in all issues and disputes exempt the budget of administration in WTO meetings. The European Commission speaks on behalf of the EU member states, whose representatives usually remain silent. Member states support arrangements because acting on a bloc gives a greater leverage in WTO negotiations. We're going to dispute the resolution. Like many international organisation. The WTO has its own judicial system for resolving disputes between members of states. WTO has had two states mechanism. The panel system, which is similar to the national lower courts, and the appellate body, which is similar to the courts of appeals. However, this is where the similarity ends. The WTO dispute resolution system is different from a typical domestic judicial system for the following reasons. Firstly, unlike the EU, ordinary citizens and companies have no access to the WTO dispute resolution systems. Only states that are members of the WTO are able to bring complaints against one another. This effectively means that companies and businesses may only attempt to persuade their governments to bring a claim on their behalf. Given how expensive, complex, and importantly political WTO litigation is, governments filter complaints, and only a very small number of them are brought before the WTO panels. Secondly, claims can be brought and only against states, not against private companies or businesses. If a large corporation behaves anti-competitively, the WTO dispute resolution system is generally of no help to the other companies who are affected by this. Thirdly, the complaints can be brought only against other states which are members of WTO, not against the acts of WTO itself. This is because WTO is a member-driven organisation that functions primarily as a negotiation forum rather than a supernatural decision-making authority. So, like when you're becoming a critic, you're saying this go with WTO, you're saying this go with EU, this go with Brexit. I don't think you understand how many pages of each policy making there is. Do you actually understand which is good and which isn't? Also, trading with it, WTO has a massive impact in society. Fourthly, the WTO dispute resolution system offers limited possibilities for actions or remedies. In the jargon, it is possible to ask for monetary compensation, or a fine to be imposed of a violation state. Equally, panels cannot order states to carry out or abstain from carrying out a specific act. So, for example, panels can tell states to stop providing state subsidies, such as financial support to domestic companies. WTO panels can only recommend that the state corrects a violation in future. Violating states are usually encouraged to amend their laws in a way to see fit, so long as the result compatible with WTO law. Remedies are thus future orientated. Whether damage which has already occurred, such as the application of in incorrect import tariff to a foreign producer, generally remains uncompensated. Again, this is different to the EU law, which also individuals to sue other states for financial losses that they have suffered. Feel-free, a violating state may simply ignore a panel's recommendations. In this case, the complaining state may be allowed to retaliate. For example, if a state A was found to have applied of a higher tariff than a legally bound ceiling, products imported from the B state latter may be allowed to apply for a tariff products higher tariff to products from state A in retaliation. This, however, is not a desirable solution because the result is that both states suffer higher tariffs. Besides, retaliation does not help companies and businesses who have already suffered from the higher tariffs. That's why compensation, for example, by opening up the market for some other goods or services, is available as an alternative. As far as the EU is concerned, it conducts WTO litigation on behalf of the Member States. European Commission's legally service has a lot of expertise and experience at WTO dispute resolution. Member States are reluctant to go directly involved in WTO disputes due to professionals and financial resources that would be required in typically higher complex and long-lasting WTO litigation. You think you know something, really don't. When you think you know the WTO rules, the Brexit, the EU. You really don't. You can remember it all if I tried. That is only one quarter, one third, perhaps one third at the tops, at push, one third of WTO agreement regulations. Did you take it in? Is it better than Brexit? Could you answer that question? We need to do our yeah. If you think about WTO, Vietnam, Ethiopia. I don't know if Ethiopia is WTO. I'd say coffee bean. Where'd you get coffee bean from? Imagine we couldn't get coffee bean. That's where it comes from. Vietnam and Ethiopia. Imagine when a new phone. You can't even get a new phone from China. Not doing the WTO. I don't, that's not. That's what I'm not sure about doing trading when it comes to trading. See, I don't know the ins and outs. I've read enough. Anyway, ladies and gents, that is our Sunday afternoon show. Thank you so much for your support. Time and time again. Could be Tony. I'm guessing Tarek maybe. Thank you. Sort of say thank you. God bless. Have a wonderful Sunday. I'm not sure who else. My friends listening. Maybe my old food bank support lady, Kathy Baker, maybe. Also, thank you all for watching in. Really appreciate it. Guys on Castbox, guys on Podbean and YouTube. If you don't mind subscribing to my show, I just want to say thank you for giving me your acknowledgement and a bit of encouragement when you're here to support me. That means a lot. Take care. One love. Enjoy your Sunday, your holy Sunday. God bless. Take care. One love. Speak soon.